Happy Freedom Friday, everybody. I want to start by playing you a message I got this morning, right around 6 a.m., from superstar Sheila Stardust. And
Hey, 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 hey. Woo! There's nothing like sunrise praise dancing, gratitude shouting. Hey. Good morning, soul family. Good morning, saints, super saints, superhero and superheroine. My beautiful starseed extension of God, grace, new possibilities, my possibility partners. Yes. Listen, I'm going to chime in. I'm actually headed out. I have to take my trash out before the trash men come, and then I'm going to do my morning soul stroll, and I'm going to chime into this beautiful conversation that is created by my possibility partners. I'm praising spirit all the way, though. Hey, I invite you to, move your body this morning. Physiology. As you move in the groove, the ideas, the creativity, the energy comes. Good morning. Happy Freedom Friday. Yes. Beautiful Clara, Divine David, our magical map shifter. Hey, I love you both. I love you both. All right, gotta go.
all right. So the theme of this session is the music of the spheres. And as you can see, music can completely transform the moment, transform the day. Music can be inside you and outside you all the time. One of the major themes of this virtual summit is shared experience. And music is language, it's words, but it's more. Nietzsche said that poets bring their words forward on the carriage of rhythm because they can't walk by themselves. That was something of a put down. I think Nietzsche was probably a little bit serious. Compare that with George Clinton, who said, "Free your ass and your mind will follow." That's kind of more the P-Funk philosophy I'm personally into. Now, I've actually shifted that a little bit. The way I hear George Clinton words is, "Free your ass and your heart will follow." I'm going to be sharing some musicians, performers, who are entering the creator economy in a bigger way. Since I was in a band a long time ago, the music industry has really changed. And as you all know, everything has changed since I was in the music industry back in 1986 to 1981. As all of these economies and businesses and the business setting and the context of work shifts, we have an opportunity to become more co-creative, more liberated. And what we're going to be seeing over these last 3 sessions is a crescendo, an opening to a completely new way to relate to each other within the business context. Those who really follow music and follow the music industry know how much separation there is between the artist and the money, the business. You had Bruce Springsteen in endless fights with his record label. Neil Young put out complete crap just to, get out of a contract with David Geffen. He put out This Bud's for You and Neil and the Shocking Pinks. He had to deliver before he got into his super cool stuff. Kanye West trying to get his music back. Taylor Swift in battles. And all of the rights management stuff. I put up a song that I wrote, and YouTube decided that part of it was from something else. I don't know who this other person is, but there was some part of it where they said it's something like this. I actually listened to the other song, and I didn't see any resemblance. So there's a DNA to music. And again, music transforms the moment. It brings people together because everybody becomes in the same rhythm. It is so powerful. It's the center of ceremonies. So with each of these artists, each of these creators, I'm going to add some of their music to the videos. And before I introduce them, I'd actually like to introduce something about what I've been doing musically. I'm going to play you a song that's up on YouTube. It's called Grey-Eyed Athena. I'm also going to put links to a couple other songs. Music for me is a map. There's Claude Lévi-Strauss wrote a lot about music. He was a structural anthropologist. And he wrote about the synchronic and the diachronic. So the synchronic is everything happening in the moment. The diachronic is what happens over time. We're here as creators. And when we're creating for the online universe, it's important to be aware of our co-creator partner, meaning our client, our customer. If you're an executive coach, that means the executive you're working with, but not just when you're working with them, but their journey from that first signal, from that first note. If you're watching a movie, that opening scene is critical. I'm smiling because I have an ongoing... I just met Sheila a few days ago, and she is my twin, super soul sister, Stardust. And we had this real connection around movies and the importance of film. You can illustrate, like with music, it's a shared experience in that theater in the way it unfolds over time. So this opening scene of the player is one of the longest, I think it's like 18 and a half minutes without a cut. And it's just following this character. And when you're aware of it, when you watch it again, you're just in awe of how this unfolds. There was a theme in my conversation with Dina yesterday or in the last session, of self-authorship and owning your own narrative. I've received a gift recently from Sheila, Clara, Judy, and Bill, who you've met, of magical map shifting. And it's something I did. I mean, I remember all the time I would just go to the whiteboard and I would talk to people, and what they were expressing, what they were seeing would come up on the board. But working with them over the last few days, Sheila, Clara, Bill, and Judy, I honed my map shifting ability. And I'm going to be able to now share that with you. I'm going to be able to show you how to shift the map, the co-creative map that both you and your client are on. The one that they start with, that very, very first signal, whatever that signal is, a message on LinkedIn, a Facebook ad, and how that co-creative journey enriches you and grows you and expands your map, and how all of the maps come together, not at the borders, but in 5D space. And that's what's important about map shifting. You heard, I believe I told part of this story in one of the interviews, I think it was with Sheila, but there was a moment when I was touched by an angel, and that finger came from a different dimension. It was like there's a book, Flatland, where the world is flat, and an object, and so all they see is from their edges. That's all they're aware of. And it seems like a full world to them. But something comes from there's a being from another, there's a sphere that's up here, and this flat square, it touches them inside the square. And it's like magic. It's like, how can this person touch me? And, lifts them up, and they can get a sense in 2D space of the cross sections of, from 3D space, the cross section of the 2D. Now there's another book, Sphereland, which takes that into one other dimension. In high school, I read a lot of Gurdjieff and Uspensky. And when I was in high school, I was a counselor at the Maryland Leadership Workshops. And I led workshops on 4 and 5 dimensions, and how our shift to multiple dimensions changes our ability to communicate. Einstein called it spooky actions at a distance. It's not coincidence. Synchronicity, serendipity is what's all happening now. What we really want to understand is that everything is happening now. Everything that's ever happened is happening now. Everything that ever will happen is happening now. Music gives us a taste of that. Meditation gives us a taste of that. The way Gurdjieff explained meditation was the sense of timelessness is from our thoughts repeating on this pattern. Om Mane Padme Om. Om Mane Padme Om. When you have a repeated pattern and you're really in that repeated pattern, then this moment, time collapses, and that experience of time collapses for you. When you're in regular, okay, there's an interruption, there's a thought, there's this, someone says something to me, it feels like time is moving forward. When Monica, my wife and wonderful partner, and I were at Esalen Institute for Bill Plotkin Soulcraft, we just wandered by Bhagavan Das leading these musical prayer meditations. And the music was just so compelling, so gorgeous. We just went in. During the Soulcraft workshop, we had sacred dancing. During More to Life, there are often dancing exercise. There's music that enters and moves through the entire seminar and session and comes in. There's Brad Brown, who co-founded More to Life, called it pendulosity, where you're bringing your students up to these heights and bringing them down to their depths. This is something that these are geographic metaphor systems. And what I've come into recently as a new superpower, as a new gift, is map making as music. And an awareness of the spatial and temporal metaphor systems, where when I just said heights and depths are often, Brad talked about it as above the line and below the line in terms of metaphor systems. Below the line is essentially hell. It's constrained, and you're in your fear and your judgment. You're in the muck. Above the line is essentially heaven. You're in your creativity, co-creativity. You're in your gratitude, and there are just limitless possibilities. He was a preacher, a theologian, a psychologist. As a map maker and someone who has been adopted by a Lakota Tioshpaye, and that's a community, a family, and that I'm a pipe carrier in that tradition. As I mentioned before, Albert Whitehat, one of my mentors, said in the Lakota tradition there is no good and bad. There is no positive and negative. Even saying that I'm going to be positive is actually a judgment. And you can let yourself down if you're saying I'm only going to be positive. Negative is just as important. The electron and the proton, the positron, the neutron, all of these are important parts of systems. They are co-creative. So what I came to in the magical map making is a matter of distance. And right now I'm speaking it in words. Before the end of the final 11th session, I'm going to share this more visually. When I'm now seeing it as distance. So at the center is the heart. And your distance from your heart and from other people's hearts is separation. And now that I've uncovered a particular gift, I can share that with you. It's the same with music and being a music teacher, or being a music therapist, or being a CEO, and how you bring music into your organization, or as a life coach, or as an executive coach, how you're bringing music in, or in CrossFit as a trainer, how that music plays. My wife and I got a Google Play a Google Home, and it's been really fun. We can be in the shower and, just want to hear Chemical Brothers, or want to hear Love It and Rockets, or want to hear Fugazi, or want to hear Kanye, or whatever it is. We can bring that in, or Avett Brothers, wherever we are, we're cooking, and you can start what's going on with Spotify and Pandora and others. You can start with a seed. So I'll start with Wilco's Jesus, etc. And I really recommend you do this. The whole mood is created for you. When we're working on a puzzle together, that mood is created for you. Now, Spotify is really challenging for musicians. And part of my experience in the music industry is why I'm co-creating Scobie with you. Because I want an ecosystem where every member plays a vital role. And the ecosystem as a whole is essential. And each part is essential, meaning of the essence of that ecosystem. So as this unfolds, I'm asking you to contribute your voice. Contribute whatever sound you can make. I actually have my buffalo hide drum here. Sometimes in a session, I'll do shamanic journeying. I'm actually inspired to do that now. Just for a moment, before I introduce these other. So I want to tell you another little story. I ordered, when I was in college, I ordered Michael Harner's shamanic drumming. And our drummer's name was Thor, and I used to play him for it. And I would say, I want to transport our audience using these shamanic rhythms. And what I didn't really understand was that it wasn't the rhythm. There wasn't a specific beat, excuse me, that moved people. After I started taking workshops with Michael Harner, and as I started performing more, I understood the use of drumming. And in the Anipi, the Sweat Lodge, in the Uipi ceremony, where the medicine man, the Ieska, is covered with cloth and bound completely. So I'm going to share this shamanic journey, this guided meditation with you. And then I'm going to introduce two of my works, one that was very recent and one that was on MTV. I'm actually going to share 4 works with you. So I'll introduce those briefly, and then I will introduce our 4 guests today. So here goes a shamanic journey for Freedom Friday. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply in for the count of 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2, 2. Then breathe out for the count of 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold for the count of 2. Now, I was showing you how to do that. I'm just going to pause for a moment and we're all going to do that together. Breathe in for the count of 4. Hold it for 2. Breathe out for the count of 4 and hold for 2. Bring the air all the way in. So it's down a path through a graveyard, old stones all around you, names in all different languages, in all different types of script. As you walk through the graveyard, you understand that these names, this DNA in the earth, are all connected, are all intertwined, leading back through time, leading forward into the future, leading into the soil, into the earth, into the grass, into the standing nation of trees. As you walk through the path, the trees grow all around you. They grow. They grow. It's not that you're walking deeper into a forest. You are walking, but the trees are growing. Civilization is growing more distant. It's moving. It's moving. It's moving away from you. At the center is your heart. You hear a woodpecker. You hear a woodpecker. That woodpecker is the drum. That woodpecker is your heart. That woodpecker has pecked holes in a branch. That branches fall into the ground and you pick it up. You play a tune, you play a melody on that flute, that wooden flute that has fallen from the tree and landed at your feet. As you walk forward, you see a railroad, a very small one. There's an old cart. You get into the cart and it goes down into this magical cave. You see diamonds. The diamonds become stars. The cave becomes the whole sky. The cave becomes the universe. The cave is the universe. You're traveling through the universe until you come to your home planet, your own Earth. Your spirit animal comes to you. Notice what that spirit animal is. Greet your spirit animal. Your spirit animal hands you a box. It's a wooden box. You open it. Inside is felt. That felt is a color. Notice what the color is. Reach your hand into the box and you'll see a scroll, a very small scroll. unfurl the scroll. Read the scroll to yourself. That scroll is the name of your project. It's the name of the next part of your journey. It's what you're calling the next part of your journey. It's what you're calling your journey, just for now, just for this part. It is your calling, not forever, but forever now, for this moment, which is an eternal moment. You hold the scroll to your heart. You bow and thank your spirit guide, your spirit animal, your brother, your sister, your relative in the community of all beings, in the more than human world. You take that scroll and your spirit guide bows and acknowledges you and thanks you. Your spirit guide understands how important this project is, how significant you are, how powerful you are. And now you can bring this gift, this scroll, back into the world. You journey back from your home planet through the stars. You see Saturn. You see Mars. You swirl around the sun in this trajectory. Mercury, Venus, back to Earth, around the moon once, twice, 3, 4 times. And then you come back. You come back. You come back into your seat, into your chair. Now, each of us has different learning modalities. Some speak, some write. What I would like you to do here now, though, is write down what was on the scroll. And take a moment, once I'm done speaking, to pause the video. And before you move forward, write freeform all that is emerging. You can do it on your computer, on Google Docs. You can write it on a pad of paper. I keep a pad of paper by my desk at all times, and I'm always just writing on it. I never read it again. I use a tool called Otter, and I'm going to put a link to Otter. I'm going to put a link to the tools that I like beneath these videos. I would actually appreciate if you click on my links that I provide, because sometimes I provide links to partners of mine, and so I get paid if you use that, if you use those links. You can, of course, do it yourself, but sometimes, it's nice for you also to tip your guide by using the tools they provide. And we're going to, when we get to the final part of the session, and we talk more about partners and partnership, you'll have opportunities to share links and be compensated for sharing those links. So while you're writing or speaking into this microphone and transcribing it with Otter, you're going to have an opportunity to join the Creators Guild and learn some of these techniques that I call metacognitive trance-based co-creation. And I just want to say, as we're going forward, while this gift is still in you, please do pause this video instead of hearing the rest of what I'm saying now. While this gift is still in you, this that you have, you can also, anytime, because this is a recording, you can go back and walk through this shamanic journey again and bring those gifts forward for yourself. The drum, by the way, is the heart, is the heartbeat. In the Lakota tradition, only men are in that drumming circle. And the women contribute their voices. And there is a lot of power in how that works. And there are real reasons for those traditions. I had a call with my partner, Clara, yesterday, and you'll see this if you choose to keep going with me. We co-created and we demonstrated magical map shifting. And when we started the check-in, she said that she was on her moon time. And people sometimes don't understand why women and men have different roles in ceremony. In the Lakota tradition, the reason women don't come into the lodge on their moon time is because they are birthing something. They are bringing out of their body all kinds of powers and bringing them into the universe. And women are part of the flow and part of the earth in a different way than men are. And the inipi, or the sweat lodge, is a womb that you enter and in ceremony and you leave. If a woman is on her moon time, then all of the energies that she's going through will overwhelm and overpower that ceremony that others are participating in. And so the women are held by the other women in their moon time in another ceremony that is very powerful. And in the sun dance, while the men are pierced on their chests, on their breasts, the women are pierced on their arms. So sometimes we talk about the solar and lunar in this. And again, there's no hierarchy in the solar lunar. The solar itself is hierarchical. In the masculine and feminine, there's no hierarchy. They were actually called twin spirits or twin souls in indigenous traditions. In the Zuni tradition, you had what we consider trans was also a very, very powerful role. We've talked some about neurodiversity, neurodivergence. what this all is magical map shifting. When you have an artist like Jim Morrison, who invoked the archetypal powers, who invoked the spirits and brought those very powerfully into the world. That was his mission with Ray Manzarek, opening those doors of perception. What was so challenging for him is that he did not have a guide who understood how to hold the space. So Bill Thatcher, for example, is somebody who has an incredible gift in holding space for you to initiate yourself into the mysteries of your own soul. Web weaver Bill Plotkin has that gift. A ceremonial leader holds the ceremonial space in the Inipi, the Sweat Lodge, in the Sundance, in the Uipi ceremony. It's holding that sacred ceremonial space so that you can do 3 parts. And you saw that in the shamanic journey you just went through. You go through what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey, the separation, the initiation, and the return. The return is so challenging. The return is what people often aren't able to do. Separation's easy. When you have that call to adventure, you separate. The initiation can be challenging, but the return is where the gifts are brought back from the other world, from the underworld, from Skyfather. It all gets integrated. One reason our civilization is so challenged with the return, and why it is so hard to bring our gifts into the world, it's so challenging, is that we've lost the twinship. Those twin heroes who went together, where when they faced Longarm, and Longarm said, Monster Slayer, the solar twin, said, let's shoot our arrow. And the lunar twin, said, no, let's sing to Longarm. And that was the medicine. Music is medicine. Laughter, comedy is medicine. These words are medicine. What's important to understand is you are medicine. You are medicine to others. And that's what you're bringing forth. Your gifts are medicine. Those gifts could be words. Those gifts could be images. Those gifts could be maps. Those gifts could be like this medicine wheel. I'm actually going to show you a gift. This is a gift that I received recently from my snake guide, my serpent, on a walk, and I added it to my medicine shield. Which is right above my desk. And snakes are transformation. When you are going through a transformation, you can't see. The snake is blind while they're in transformation. The key is you are always in transformation, which means you are always blind, which means you want to surround yourself with others who will show you your blind spots so that you can stay in transformation while also returning. So the gift, the return of Gilgamesh, was the plant that cures the fear of death. That's what Gilgamesh brought back from the bottom of the sea. He had a twin, Endoki, who was the wild man. That was the lunar twin. And they co-created this together. Within you, you have your solar twin and your lunar twin. Outside, you have the sun and you have the moon, and you have all of these solar lunar twins around you so that you're able to reflect back. There's someone missing from this event, this summit, who I want to bring forward. Sophie Savage is a very important guide for me, a very important mentor. And we had a very painful separation, which I understood more what was beneath that separation. So as we said, we created proximity between us. I created proximity between us. I left her, she left me, because we were challenged. In the song I'm going to play for you, in one of the songs, The Combine, there's the words, "The purpose of a sundering is reconciliation." And that's true. In my heart, I am reconciled with Sophie. And it's very important that we also reconcile in reality. That my words, and I sent her a short note. I also recorded another message for Sophie, which I'm actually going to share with you here as well as part of this video. And there's a reason I want you to see all of this, is because it models co-creation. It models how powerful my mentors are. You're going to see, you've already seen Sheila take me part way, but because I know Judy and Bill deeply within a particular context, they were able to hold space for me in a way that was much more deeply cathartic, that allowed me to take those extra steps on the map and understand the story, bring things up that were so painful. You know, sometimes people talk about generational trauma. And some people don't believe it. Don't believe that, for me, Holocaust trauma is really deeply affecting me. And in an experience with Sophie, I addressed Holocaust trauma. I just started crying in a public session. And here, what you're going to see in this video I'm going to share is I understood that the reason I was separating from Sophie was because of a wound that wasn't my wound. It was a wound that was passed down from me from my mother. My mother's mother died of cancer when my mother was only 11. My mother and I had a beautiful relationship. We really were close. I mean, I deeply love my mother, but I never felt, I never really understood, and we never really connected around that grief of losing her mother and how desperately she wanted to be a mother to us. Well, Sophie was diagnosed with terminal cancer at almost precisely the same age my mother was when her mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I had a dream once. So I had a former girlfriend, my girlfriend in college and beyond college, whose father died when she was young. And you could just tell from the way she talked about him, just what a huge heart her father had. And I had a dream where I felt we had already broken up. We had been broken up for a year or two. And I went through the death of her father. And it was so overwhelming. And it was another thing that I didn't understand. When we had this relationship, she would talk about her father dying occasionally. I mean, I knew it happened, but I didn't understand it deeply, deeply, deeply. And the gift with Sophie that she brought to me is this bringing forward of the heart. We have 3 centers of consciousness. We have thinking neurons in our brain. We have thinking neurons in our heart, and we have thinking neurons in our gut. We are a system that feels before we think. Our feelings are physical in our bodies. And that was part of this this session that I held with Clara that you'll be able to see if you continue on this journey with us after the summit. Feeling your feelings. That's also something that one of my guides, Peggy, gave to me during a session at More to Life. She came up to me and simply whispered, "Feel your feelings." And for the first time, the world opened up in a different way. I had a different map of the world. And I could relate to everybody in a different way. And doors started opening, portals started opening. That's the magic, is your feelings, because your feelings are what is connected to your body. Your body is nature. Your body is the underworld. Your body is what's connected to the rest of the universe. What you think of as your mind, that seat of consciousness, the executive function, is so important. But it's following. It's not actually leading. It's following. What you think you're choosing, what you think you're deciding, is coming up from, you're essentially the last to know. And in all of these words, I always prefer the word making a choice instead of decide, which again is a separation, as if I'm, for once and for all, there's some deicide, infanticide. It's like we're killing something, we're eliminating some other possibility. What's really liberating is understanding the universe and understanding possibility space and understanding that every possibility is unfolding all of the time in every way. And it's only your choice which path to take. Every one of these paths leads home. Every single path leads home. There is no great weight of the universe on every choice you make. There's a lightness in every choice you make. And that's the beauty of music. The choices that the musicians are making, the choices that the composer is making, the conductor is making, in the moment, provides a map for you, a gift for you in following your heart. So, the music I'll be sharing with you first is a ceremony I conducted where I really wanted to separate my past from my future. I went and visited Four Arrows in Mexico, and we did ceremony. And you can't film ceremony. And I wanted to share that with the world. So I came back and I created my own ceremony. I went down to the river right here with my buffalo robe that you always see behind me. It's draped over a couch. I brought my eagle bone whistle from the Sundance. And it was very much a real ceremony in the tradition of Bill Plotkin, who was my guide in learning self-directed ceremony. So I did this ceremony, and I time traveled. I co-created Scobie, and I did it in ceremony so that you could participate. So I'm going to share that ceremony with you first. After that, and I want to say another thing, Sheila invited me to a Clubhouse Akashic reading. And she said there was some real drama, some real questions about whether it's right to publicly do sacred readings. It's a ceremony. And this is a dialogue I have all the time with Four Arrows, and the whole First Peoples are talking about this. Many of the First Peoples say, no, the hegemonic, the dominant, the white culture is going to ruin the ceremonies. They corrupt everything. And it's true. When you are in your separated, distant mind, when you're in your ego, when you're not connected, ceremony can go very, 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 very poorly. As you know, people were killed in a sweat lodge in Arizona. You know, there's just, that space is sacred. And before you start leading ceremony, it's very important that you are truly masterful. So that's one of the reasons I do have a path through this journey, from creator, where you're creating your own ceremonies, to partner, to mentor, where you can start to share these in a way that other people learn. But the fourth and final stage is guide. Because as a guide, as a co-creator guide, you're willing to be guided while you're guiding. So fully in tune, if you're going to put somebody up on the hill on a hamblecha, and you're tending fire for them, it's very important that you stay connected with them. And there's a depth of that work that keeps them safe, that holds them in that cocoon of transformation, to go from the youth of the species to the adult of the species. That's what we do in initiation ceremonies, is we hold space for the initiate to transform. So that's the first ceremony, the first gift. The second is the video that played on MTV, Gray-Eyed Athena, and I directed, produced, made the video for this. I'm the guy with the mandolin. The song is sung and was written by my co-creator, Jeff Turner. And then I'm going to share with you links to two other songs. I don't have videos for them. One is Canada, and it's about my journey, my sacred initiation in Montreal, when I traveled through time and brought back my gift, one of my central gifts of map making, and how to find the portals through time and space to reconnect with repressed memories, with generational trauma. I went through generations of Tibetan monks. I went through the Holocaust. I went into the future, to future civilizations, future languages. And part of the journey I guided you on was, some of that was from my journey in Montreal. After that journey, Michael Harner said, next time you have a vision quest, don't do it in a major metropolitan area, which is a very important lesson for all of us. One thing you'll see if you follow these, that I repeat stories. What's interesting is that's also part of the Lakota tradition. If you read Albert Whitehat's book, Zuya, he actually says that he's going to tell the stories multiple times. And you think, this is a book. Why should I read this story over and over? I can just go back and hear it here. Well, it's not the same the second time you've heard it. I've heard the same things from Howard Tight so many times. And every time there's a new level of richness, because it's part of the conversation we just had. When we talk about the Green Man or the Green Knight, it's within a context that the lunar masculine is being invoked and becoming our co-creative guide in that moment. Or when Mercury is invoked, Hermes, the liminal guide between the worlds. This is what I teach in my map making, in my map shifting, my magical map shifting. I'm teaching liminality and how to see the thresholds, how to understand the thresholds. I'm sharing the portals between the worlds that you can find. The other map making gift, map shifting gift that Sophie gave me, Sophie meaning wisdom, was shifting the map. In alchemy, there's as above, so below, mirror worlds. There's a hierarchical there's a hierarchy of above and below. In our dominant culture, not everywhere. I mean, Unshimaka, Earth Mother, is the panacea. That's as vital to us as Sky Father. But in a patriarchal culture, there is a hierarchy of masculine over or above feminism. This is actually a very important lesson. Our military took the indigenous symbols and said, okay, bars, gold, ore, bronze, silver, gold, are in the earth. They're the lowest. So when you rise through the ranks, you get a number of bars, and you get bronze, silver, gold. Next, you get oak leaves. Well, those are the next higher. Those are part of the standing nation. And then at the top, they have, not at the top, but then you have your wings from the eagles. And then finally, you have the stars, the 4-star generals. Those are at the top. They're the stars, the superstars. Well, the reality is we're all made of stars. Carl Sagan really brought that home in Cosmos, this book I read over and over and over when it came out. I watched the videos obviously on TV, but in those days you couldn't just watch them again. I loved Carl Sagan and Cosmos. It brought so much to my heart as a very nerdy junior high school student, or as the kids say today, middle school. So that Cosmos was the basis of my map shifting, and Sophie, by shifting it to as within, so without, there was something very, very powerful there that's part of my gifts and how I guide people now, and how I'm guided by the universe, because Sophie showed me that the challenge isn't always within, but we kind of take it on ourselves. Sometimes the challenge is without, that systems can be problematic, that systems can be the problem, can be the challenge. The challenge isn't always change yourself, and something wonderful will happen. Sometimes the sequence that will unlock things is changing something in a system, whether that's the healthcare system or the educational system. So the question is, well, how do you change that system? We've talked about some of these things. Renee talked about in academia, or in the academy, or in the educational system, going from development to achievement. Going from achievement to development. So when we're focused on the development of our children, they will achieve. But if we're focused on their achievement, they won't necessarily develop. In magical map shifting, we go from performance, from outcomes, to experience. It's not where I'm going on the map that's important. It's what am I experiencing right now, right here, where I am. My universe right now is my office. And I've created this space. I love this space. This is where I'm home. This is my home, in the river, in the woods. And I found my way home. These maps for you are to bring you home. So again, I want to acknowledge you, Sheila. Sorry. I want to acknowledge you, Sophie, for showing me how to shift the world by shifting what's within. I believe I did an interview with Sophie. I'm actually going to add this. I want Sophie to be part of this summit. So I'm going to share that interview of Sophie. There's some real beauty in it, and she guides me through a particular prison system, guides me through the carceral state in a way that you can see, you'll be able to experience her gifts. So I'm actually going to have we're going to have 5 presenters today instead of 4. So the special bonus one of Sophie Savage will be part of this this experience. So after those videos, I'm going to share with you a short video where I had this cathartic experience. Actually, I'll probably put it down next to Sophie's. And I'll also share after that, after the second one after Sophie's, I'm going to share this co-creative experience with Bill and Judy. It's actually possible. I'd like not to edit. It takes more of your time. You can always fast forward through these videos, but sometimes the setup, the before and after, becomes interesting. So we'll see. I'll choose whatever I believe will best serve you. So after Sophie, we have Earl Hairston, who is such a powerful performer. He transformed a ceremony that we held here in Jefferson County for our community to overcome. So our long arm, industrialization, the shadow of industrialization came to the shadow of fossil fuels. The fossil fuel shadow, the prima materia, the coal, is part of West Virginia, part of these beautiful hills. From centuries, from all of our previous generations, we have the blood of the dinosaurs in the fracked gas. We have the bones of the dinosaurs in this coal. And our coal baron governor brought this toxic industry to Shepherdstown, to Jefferson County. And it will poison the children. They actually just conducted lead testing so we can have a before and after. So our community is being vigilant. And we're addressing Rockwool not just with protests and litigation, but we're also addressing them with song. And so I'm going to share one of those songs. I'm going to share more later in a future session. We have, I believe it's the next one. We're going to, you're going to learn more about nonprofits and more about how that fits into this universe. So I am going to share a clip where Earl Hairston very generously offered me a song that I could use in this trailer for this film I'm producing. I will also put a caveat here, and I'm going to put a caveat in this trailer that we have deep respect for the first peoples of this area, the nations that gathered at the confluence of the Shenandoah and the Potomac, with deep respect. And there are some words you're going to hear where people talk about the land as their land. And we want to get through, beyond, in our musical maps, go beyond Woody Guthrie's "This land is my land, this land is your land," which is very progressive, but we want to go beyond that to "This land is not my land, and this land is not your land. This land is the land. Winchi Macaw is the land. Woodpecker is woodpecker. Deer is deer. We have no dominion. We have no domain. We have no stewardship. People talk about steward leaders. We are not stewards of the land. We are co-creators of the universe. We are nature protecting itself. I call my program, part of my program, an underlying theme of my program is protectors and providers. And all of us as co-creators are protectors. We protect ourselves, our families, our community, our world, our water. And we provide. We provide for our families, each other, ourselves, our world. We bring these gifts. These gifts, this is a gift economy. The world is a gift economy. And what we want to do is make that conscious. Gift exchanges are exchanges of energies. We have these money as energy is part of the map. It's part of the legend. And it's given us a way to see who is keeping that, damming the energy. So, just like how dams are incredibly damaging to our ecosystem, but they, quote, generate energy, meaning they just transform it to what the dominant hierarchical hegemonic civilization sees as useful. A book I'm going to recommend is Wendell Berry's Home Economics, which just explains how simple industrialization is, and the fact that it's too simple, and our economics, our economy. The problem with it is that it's too simple. It doesn't account for the sparrow. It doesn't account for the limb of the dead tree that is nurturing the crawling nation and nurturing woodpecker and nurturing sapsucker, and how all of the communion, the community of the world is always co-creating. So in my dialogue with Four Arrows, I have come to my understanding that capitalism is not a problem as long as the capital is flowing freely. I could, I don't have my money here, but now that we have digital money, if I shared Bitcoin with all of you and let it flow, that's simply sharing value. It's propagating value. I call cryptocurrency the internet, or the blockchain the internet of value, because it encapsulates value. As part of the free offering you're going to receive at the end of this summit, I have a series of sessions on how to be honored, respected, and valued. And there is an actual method to be valued. And that method is to value others. That's one of the reasons I acknowledge Source. So this is, again, I've gone this long journey. And I want to say one other thing about acknowledgement. So when I acknowledge Sophie, I also want to acknowledge myself for the Twin Heroes journey that I participated in with her. Her gifts increase in value as she shares them. And that's something that this community of Mortal Life is really struggling with. There's a concept of intellectual property that's really weighing down Mortal Life. I was actually crafting in my mind and in my heart an open letter to K. Bradford Brown, Dr. Brown, who everybody knows as Brad. I never met him in person. I have a very close relationship with Brad Brown through his work. He is a map shifter, and by receiving his map and by walking through this beautiful map that he created, I came home to myself so many times. And in this letter, I was going to share with him what had happened, what my more recent experience was. And I wanted to share with him a letter I received from Alex, who you met, Alex McGruder, this beautiful, beautiful man, this fitness trainer. And actually, Alex, I sent you a text. We're supposed to meet today at 6 p.m. I'm actually going to give you this this message publicly, and so you can watch it in this video. Sheila was just mesmerized by our conversation. She just wanted to let me pass on what an incredibly beautiful soul you are, and she actually said that to you, Zoe, as well. She was just so moved. She's been sending Sister Stardust has been sending me these messages, and I want to pass that along. And that's part of the shared experience and part of SCOBY is I want these co-creators to understand the acknowledgement, and this is how we acknowledge each other in Mortal Life. So I'm acknowledging you, where I was actually going with this. So I'm acknowledging you, Star Sister, and I'm acknowledging myself for receiving these gifts. I'm acknowledging you, Alex, and I'm acknowledging you, Zoe. So Alex, one thing that Judy passed along that's in the video I'm going to be sharing is that she was surprised by your poise and by your abilities, because she believed from our experience together in the sessions that Four Arrows and I did on metacognitive trance-based co-creation that you were flaky. Other people experienced a part of your rage when you came on early and you were incredibly upset because of something that you thought happened. You appeared to Bonica and I often as flaky, as not showing up when you said you would, because you were doing some work with us in the garden and some work with us in the garage. And people, you've co-created a narrative with people in the universe of flakiness. The projector and the provider are impeccable. Impeccability is different than perfection, but it's about precision. It's about an economy of connection, an economy of sharing your gifts. And you're really coming into your mastery. And what I wanted to share with Brad Brown is about that session we had. So there's a term in More to Life, a life shock. And I could see when we were talking that you had a life shock. You experienced a life shock. I had said, and I'll be open with this community because this is a safe space for all of us. You had committed to rent our guest house for a certain amount per month, and you lost your job, and you couldn't pay that amount. And so that was a commitment that you weren't able to keep. And when we talked, you had all kinds of reasons, excuses. Here's why I lost my job. It wasn't fair. In More to Life, this is called a limiting life shock. You didn't have any control over it, okay? That's okay. That can bring you back to your humanity. You had an exposing life shock. And maybe this is also serving as an exposing life shock. Well, an exposing life shock brings you back to your authenticity, to your realness, okay? So if someone says you're flaky, you're exposed. Well, what are you going to do with that? You're not flaky. That's a judgment, right? So what do you choose to do? Do you choose in certain circumstances? How do you choose to act? There are 3 layers of the self back in the Brad Brown model. At the core is your authentic self, which people see, Alex. People who are really willing to experience you see that beautiful, powerful guide, mentor in Alex. And there's a layer outside of Alex, which is what you fear you are. And there's a layer outside of that, which is what you how you present yourself, your pretense. And what I just described again is a map. And there's an importance of maps because you can then make choices. It's exhausting. Pretense is exhausting. Your authentic self is where all your gifts are. And this is something that you'll see come up in my conversations with executive coaches. There's one you're going to see. I can't wait till you see it. So I'm not going to say any more. But Mike Marino really is masterful at authenticity and bringing these executives into their authenticity because it takes so much less work. His book is Transform Yourself, Transform Your Organization. It's so simple. How do you transform yourself? Just be real. So Alex, this is my executive coaching for you. And this is my message to the More to Life community, which I am still very much a part of. And I will be a part of for my entire life. And I want to credit Source. In this case, Source is Sophie, And Sophie's source for some of these things is Brad Brown. Sophie's program is Life Work, which was part of our co-creation, coming to that name, that what's essentially on the scroll. When Sophie and I co-create, it's incredibly powerful. I mean, I learned a lot of this map shifting by bringing forward her gifts and putting them into words and then presenting them back. And I think that was very much, well, it was very powerful for me and allowed me to find how I can bring this. And I believe that also really serves Sophie as well. So in the hierarchical mode of mortal life, there are champions, facilitators, trainers, and senior trainers. Champions are licensed, and they have a license to bring the work into the world with a commitment that they make. They make a particular commitment to mortal life, to the foundation, of a certain amount of revenue for what they're sharing. So I'm making this commitment now. I haven't gone through whatever process to become a champion, but I'm going to donate 30% of all of the revenue that comes in through the Shared Experience Summit to the Mortal Life Foundation. What I also did is I used the Brad Brown's work in my guidance for Alex. So when I saw this life shock where I said, hey, you're going to need to move out in 30 days. We have a written agreement, a lease that says 30 days notice if you can't make your rent. And he immediately went into a panic mode. And I performed a ceremony that I learned in Mortal Life where I had him feel his feelings. He stood up and I held put my hand on his chest, and I said, and then I stepped away and I said, where in your body do you feel and I put my hand on his chest because I wanted he was slumped over. He was down. He was collapsing. We were sitting in two rocking chairs and he was just collapsing. So I asked him to stand up and I asked his permission to guide him through what he was experiencing. And when he stood up, I said, what do you feel? And he went through, in the Mortal Life process, I elicited this. And what Mortal Life does is metacognitive trance-based co-creation. The guide and the fellow guide are fellow travelers on a co-creative quest. So I guided him to his feelings, and he brought a lot of them, but the core one was dread. And he came up with this word of just dread. And I said, okay, what is the dread saying? Put your hand where you feel this dread. And it was kind of his solar plexus. And I brought the dread out. And I said, what is it saying? What is it saying? And he started talking about, and it was, he was in a demand generator. And so I kept him in this demand generator, which was this. I'm not going to explain the whole process. And I went from a demand generator into a transderivation process where I brought him back through a series of life shocks to a massive life shock from his childhood. I'm not gonna share that now because I don't have his permission. And maybe he'll share it as part of his story when he's guiding other people in his co-creative journey of fitness, physical fitness, mental fitness, spiritual fitness, emotional fitness, bringing those four parts together. When I brought him to that moment, I then, he went through as Brad taught my teachers, my mentors, my guides, as he guided them in these maps to me. We separated what was true and what was false. So we separated, first of all, that he had to do anything. And we separated out his beliefs about himself, his limiting beliefs, what was true, what was false, and what he just didn't know about the future. And at the end of it, he was incredibly relaxed. And he told me later that it didn't just shift him, it shifted his relationship with his girlfriend. It shifted his relationship between his girlfriend and his parents. He was seeing his girlfriend behind the scenes. It shifted his relationship between his girlfriend and him and his friends. His friends were visiting, and I took a walk with Alex's friends and guided them. I still employed some of my own magical map shifting techniques that I blended with, I interwove with the techniques of Warren Kahn in his Master Navigator program, with Sophie in Life Work, with Brad Brown in More to Life. So all of these maps and how the maps come together is part of this. So I'm going to share this beautiful letter that Alex wrote to me. And he said to me, he sent me a text message that basically said that I should be the therapist for the millennials. And the beauty of this is that it is out there in the world. You can't bottle it. You can bottle it, and it's important to bottle it, because that's a way that allows it to go. I'm bottling this lesson in this video, and I'm selling it to those who upgrade to the All Access Pass, and I'm adding materials in the All Access Pass that will benefit you for a long time after the free version is no longer online. This reminds me of one other announcement. So, Brad, I want to just summarize this. The state of your organization is strong. I didn't understand this until I had the breakthrough. There is an impeccability, and people choose to leave or they choose to return. It's always their choice. I have never made a statement that I am leaving More to Life. And I did make the statement that I will follow this path for the rest of my life. What I understand is following Brad Brown and Ray Whitten's path is not exclusive of following my path. I had a long conversation with Sophie about horses being vehicles, and how Brad said she was going to have to pick a horse because you can't ride two horses. Well, and I agreed with her. But when we and when we were talking about our paths and creating our own paths and being on the cutting edge of consciousness, one thing I didn't realize is while you do have to choose a vehicle for a period of time, you do and you don't. You also don't have to choose a path. And this is something that one of my mentors, Howard Teich, brought to me. One of my guides, Howard Teich. When I was first exploring the Red Road, the Lakota tradition, being a pipe carrier, he said, just make sure you don't lose sight of your other guides. If you have the pipe as your guide, you still want the quantum serial guide. And I said quantum serial because I actually conflated quantum physics and sugar cereal, because there is a sugar cereal guide. And I've experienced that under various states. And Howard had a dream once where it was about cereal, but it was alchemical. I mean, what are Cheerios? That's the circle. What are Honey Grams? You know, those are the square. How are you circling the square? What's Lucky Charms? You know, what are the Lucky Charms? If you're not following the sugar cereal guide, you're missing an enormous part of creation. You're missing you're not seeing all of the map. I've been taking a course from, it was 4 sessions with Patrick Blanchfield. It was brilliant and beautiful. It was incredible. It was on repression with the Brooklyn Institute of Social Research. And we read Mao Zedong, we read David Petraeus, we read Freud, we read Lacan, we read all of these current critical theorists. I don't even remember their names anymore. We watched movies, all kinds of things, and really understood repression and how repression in the world is repression of ourselves. What we repress, what memories we repress because they were painful, and how psychoanalysis is creating these maps of the psyche. So we have the Sigmund Freud guide, we have the Carl Jung guide, we have the Howard Teich guide, we have the Sophie guide, we have the Brad Brown guide, we have the Spinoza guide. That's what we want to understand. We have the Black Elk guide, and we have all of the guides from the past and the future. That's the importance of these quantum maps, like in Interstellar. Our guides are drawing us forward. Our future selves and our future self is intimately connected with what we consider the past because of the way our mind plays tricks on us, because of the way it changes in the moment. So I've only gotten to my first introduction. Actually, my first 2. I introduced Sophie, and I introduced Earl. I believe the sequence I'm going to share them in this sequence. I'm going to share Earl first, and then I'm going to share Sophie. And I do encourage you to go in this order. I mean, I design this map in a particular way, but then also I'm following the map as you're following the map. I'm getting co-creative inspirations. Like just the other day, Clara said downloads, and a lot of people say they're getting downloads. And it was, again, there was sort of this hierarchical, like there's some God in the sky who's giving me something. What you were getting was a sharing, that co-creation energetic jolt. So these are happening in a particular way. So the last one, these beautiful people came into my life in a 48-hour period, and I wanted to put that together as a session. That was session 8. So now session 9, after Earl, you're going to meet Jason Fetty, who I only met recently, an incredible singer, cantor. We have this wonderful conversation about our roots in culture and in music. We share Judaic roots. And I also want to state, now that I've invoked Yahweh, Yud-He, Vud-He, one representation of the Tree of Life, I really want to acknowledge my brothers in Palestine who are suffering from the Israeli apartheid carceral state. And I want us all, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to just sit for a minute and feel the pain of the children and of their parents and of the imposed limitations, the imposed oppression. And thank you for this co-creative moment, my Muslim Palestinian brothers. I was taught to fear the PLO. I was taught to fear Yasser Arafat. When I went to Hebrew school, they had caricatures of Yasser Arafat that were probably fairly similar to caricatures of Jews in Nazi Germany. In terms of the Semitic, characteristics. And there was a book Howard contributed to called Transforming Terror. It's one you might want to read. It came out after 9/11, and there were these, I believe George Lakoff was in the book, and all these other guides, all these other map shifters. And transforming terror is literally transforming terror. It's removing the terror. It's transforming it. It's bringing it out and turning that into love. It's transforming the prima materia, the fear, into love. It's changing the separation into connection. So let's all transform terror every day. So that's Jason. Lauren Baylor. My other super soul sister daughter. Lauren, one of my daughter Zoe's childhood best friends, is emerging like a cicada with song into the universe, bursting into the universe. So we're gonna, I will share one of her songs, and she is just so incredible, and also somebody who is bridging the music, money, energy part. She studied music business, and we're talking about that, and you'll also experience her gifts themselves and the depth of her soul. And Alex Marin, wow, I met him through Four Arrows. Four Arrows, he was in a session with Four Arrows, and he just took what Four Arrows was saying and set it to music. And I was just so moved by that, so inspired by that, that I was like, I've got to meet this Alex Marin. So you're going to meet, he's studying eco-design thinking, which, again, in my magical map shifting, I bring into my heart as eco-design feeling. Being at home. Being at home in the world. And one more shout out to John, who you met, John Franklin, who is also marrying in a sacred marriage the solar and the lunar of space, bringing nature into the built environment. Okay, we've taken quite a journey today, And so I'm going to sign off and wish you a fabulous Freedom Friday. And even if you're seeing this in 5 days, you are enjoying that spirit, or 2 days, or 100 days. Even if it is now, you are experiencing your Friday, your eternal Friday in the universe. Thank Yahweh, Yehovah, Tinkashla, Unchi Makah, God, it's Friday.